Hi, my name is Sarah Khan. The date is July 6, 2025, summer semester 2025, class CJJ 4010, Juvenile Justice Administration. So for the first category that I looked at um, for the facts was the arrest data by age group for females. So I was actually very shocked at how low the numbers slash percentages were for arrests, since most juvenile female arrests were between 1 and 2% for each age category, within 13 to 14 being the highest for females. So here you can see 13 to 14 being highest among the juvenile rate for females, with the percent and the numbers being very low. And for the next category, I looked at the arrest data by age group for males. I know from our previous research that juvenile males had a higher offending rate, so that didn't shock me as much. The percentages were similar to that of the female ones, ranging in 1 to 2% categories for juveniles. I actually thought that the percentages would be higher for the male ones. So I was shocked that it was about the same rate for the females. And I was actually very shocked that 17 was the highest offending rate, as you can see here, with 13 to 14 being right underneath it. I would have thought that 16 or 15 would have been the highest offending rate for males, and not 17. The next one is that by offense breakdown, that if the rates carry over for juveniles as it is here, that the highest offense would be simple assault that's categorized, that's not broad, other than all other offenses. Um, that it would be the highest category for juveniles. The next one for the arrest data um, was for race, and for the arrestee race, it shows the highest percentage to be white among arrestees, with African Americans being right underneath. So if the rates carry over the same from the numbers here, we can assume that the majority of juveniles that are arrested are going to be probably white, based on the fact that the UCR does not provide ages under the race category. Um, when trying to get a better picture of juvenile victimization patterns, the major problem with relying on the NCVS is, firstly, they do not collect any data from anyone under the age of 12, so therefore it's not a true full picture of all juvenile victimization. Um, Another major issue I remember being discussed in another class that I took about the NCVS is that those who fill out the surveys may lack comprehension of the asked questions, or be confused by certain questions, or not be willing to answer them at all based on their previous experiences. Another major issue is that people can be biased or inaccurate because they are self-reporting the data, and people may have a tendency to exaggerate or omit certain details due to the fact that people's memories are not perfect and can be clouded by things such as fear or trauma in the moment. This especially becomes a problem as a juvenile because juveniles' brains are not fully developed, so their memory may not be the best depending on the age that they are taking this and self-reporting the data. Next, switch my screen to here. So for the three patterns I found using the NCVS data for the age of crime victimization, the first one was that among simple assaults, the highest age rate for juveniles was 12 to 14, as we can see here. For the next category that I looked at for violent victimization, as we can see, 12 to 14 was the highest rate among juveniles. And for the next pattern, for rape and sexual assault victims, the highest rate was 15 to 17 for the pattern. And for the OJJDP data, the three patterns that I noticed using the supplementary homicide report from the website that was underneath the statistical briefing under the um, victims of offending category was that we go to the website here, you can look at the characteristics of the offenders. So I'm just going to put here 12 to 17 and 0 to 11 to keep it for juveniles. So among the data here, so you can see the arrest rate for juveniles was at the highest in the 90s, and it decreased up until 2017, where it's kind of slowly gone back up and started to rise and fall. If we go here and narrow it down to male, you can see the majority of the offenders are male and not female based on the numbers. We switch it, we can see the female offenders here, which is a significantly lower number. I did expect the majority of offenders female. However, I am shocked about the offending rate over the years and the increase leading up to 2020. I would love to see where the data has increased or decreased post-COVID, just based on the numbers. And then if we go to race over here, can see that the second most is going to be white, but the majority of the offenders are going to be in the 12 to 17 category, the pattern being among African American community having the higher offender rate compared to white people along with other minority groups. And next, using the OJJDP data, using NABRIS for victims here, just looking at the age categories 0 to 5, 6 to 11, 12 to 14, and 15 to 17. I'm just gonna submit it down here. So using that, the three patterns I noticed among juvenile victimization was that it was perpetrated majority by acquaintances rather than family or stranger based on the numbers. Next was that the highest category overall for juvenile victimization was simple assault, as we can see down here over at the total, um, with the second highest being fondling. And the next pattern that I noticed altogether was that the majority of the percentages for juvenile victimization, just based on this here, were sex related. When you add up the numbers, sadly, I did expect this because so many people, both female and male, are victims to sex crimes, especially as minors, and usually do not speak up about them. Thank you.